All right, we are back here on the podcast talking some NBA here. The playoffs set to begin in full swing on Saturday. Four games on Saturday, four games on Sunday. Kick off the way too long first round. Joining me today are the guys from the Sorry to Interrupt podcast, my big NBA guys. Sean Rowe, Tom Bocchino are back with us. Welcome, guys. How are you?
How's it going, man? It's great to be on. And real basketball or real NBA basketball is finally back. This was a tough tanking year. I know we talked about it at length the last time we came on your pod. Thank goodness we're going to be able to gamble on it because we're going to be able to figure out which team's better than the other.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to watch.
What's up, Mike? Thanks for having us back, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. As well, we'll get to all of the NBA stuff in a second. Obviously, localized, like we're gonna start with Knicks because once again, Sean's Nets are waiting to see if they get the magic ping pong ball bounce to get the chance for the Bansa or Boozer or Peterson in the lottery. But Knicks here felt like Tom very weird end to the season for them, where like felt like while they were like up, down, then they beat the Celtics last week of the season, then they're kind of like okay, we don't care at this point. We're going to be locked into the three here. Right? Think about how the Knicks ended the season.
I think they ended it very much like they played the entire season, up, like you said, up and down. Felt a little sleepwalky at most points of the season. And that's maybe me talking myself into that this team's going to be able to turn it on as we talk about this playoff preview. But yeah, it was just kind of a reflection of the entire season as a whole, where it was just like every time you think you're about to peak, they just like flick you right in the nuts for a week or two.
Yeah, Sean, what's your observations of the Knicks?
I think it's been probably a weird year as Nick fans because it's like the regular season for the first time in a really long time hasn't really mattered. It's like really just get us to the playoffs, get us there healthy. You make a couple of moves at the deadline that we talked about on your last appearance. But I overall think it's like, all right, it's go time. Like Dolan already putting on wax that they better make the NBA Finals at least and then win it. You got Mike Brown in his first year as coach trying to take this team that went to the conference final last year with Thibodeau. So I think it's tough. Like I remember, feels like forever ago now, but even some of those Nets teams in like 2020, 2021, it's like I don't know what I'm supposed to grade the regular season on. Like you're going to lose some frustrating games, but in the big picture, it doesn't matter. You're going to win some exciting games, but unfortunately, even for the most part with those, it doesn't really matter. Matchups are hard because they're really spaced out throughout the course of the season. So then you have to dive back in and be like, were teams healthy when we played them during that time? All in all, Mike, to answer your question, I believe, and Tom can speak to this, I think Knick fans are just excited. I think the Knicks are just excited to get into the playoffs because after tasting the conference finals last year and being one round away from the title, this is what they've been waiting the last 6 months for.
Yeah,
Completely agree.
definitely feel like that's a thing here. And they're speaking of the first round here. Like, I don't know how this happens, Tom. It feels like every year the Knicks are in the playoffs, they get like the hot team as their opponent. Nobody wants to play. You have the Hawks the first time, the Sixers, the Pistons last year. For a while, I'll tell you, okay, like if the Raptors can eat Boston's backups, we could just sweep the Raptors and get to the second round. But that couldn't do that. So now you got the Hawks coming in here, who these teams played three times. Knicks won two by 3 points each. The Hawks beat one of them the other game by 12. Trae Young's gone. Jalen Johnson's leading that team now. It's an interesting mix of players here. The Knicks should win this series, but I do feel like it might take a little longer than fans want.
I've talked myself into the positive side of this because you look ahead, and if it goes chalk the next two rounds of the playoffs, the Knicks are going to fight teams that are out for blood. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of a punch in the mouth in the first round. I think there's a lot better of a chance of Atlanta doing that than there is the Raptors. I think that would be a four-game sweep, easy. But with Atlanta, I'm not nervous about it. I think it's going to be a five-game, hard-fought series. But I do like their roster. With it's an interesting mix of young and veteran guys with McCollum combined with Johnson as their two big guys. Alexander Walker, I think he's got to be top three, if not number one for most improved player. So Kispert can shoot it. Gabe Vincent as well, coming off the bench. I mean, they've got some players.
Yeah. Sean, what do you think about this series here, especially the Atlanta match? It feels like it's similar-ish to Detroit last year, where they don't have, or unlike, well, I mean, Detroit has Cade, which is different, but like they're just so deep. I think that's a challenge that the Knicks will have to deal with.
They're really deep and they're really long, and that's not something the Knicks have had success with this
But
year.
they're
They've
not that tall though, so I think the Knicks are going to be able to win the rebounding battle.
Yeah, you'll have the advantage inside for sure, especially with Mitchell Robinson. But on the perimeter, I definitely think the Hawks can pose some issues for the Knicks. Jalen Johnson is a matchup nightmare. The Knicks should win the series. I'm very confident in the Knicks winning this series. I think it does go six. I do think Atlanta can grab two games. Atlanta's been playing awesome down the stretch. Now, granted, they had a stretch where they were just playing tanking team after tanking team, and but you know what? We would be killing them if they weren't winning those games, and they've looked really good down the stretch with their new identity. They're really leaning into defense. They're really leaning in to perimeter play and not relying so much on that Trey Young style of dribbling the air out of the ball, even though he was a Knicks nemesis in some of those playoff matchups. But I think this could be a frisky series. I think it's going to be kind of similar to what we saw in the Sixers series 2 years ago and the Pistons series last year, like Tom alluded to. I would not have wanted this matchup, though, if I were the Knicks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I feel like I would much rather still take the okay. Let me just like get the easier draw and potentially get out of here with the at worst a gentleman's sweep.
You own Toronto, too.
Yeah, and
Like,
I think probably statistics would back that up, but I'm going to talk myself into wanting a hard fought series against Atlanta. But you know what? Then Mitchell Robinson will probably get hurt somehow, and we'll look back at this and I'll look dumb. But I'm talking myself into it, boys. Come on.
Yeah, so how do you think this rotation is in this series, Tom? Because obviously, you have your starting five, which somehow is still together. The fact that they barely are a net positive when they play together on the floor. But you have that group, obviously Mitch, you have McBride's had the injury issues all year. Shamit's been probably one of their best guys. Alvarado's had moments. Like, how do you think his rotation goes? I know Brown, I know the right, he's like, 9.5 is sort of his target here. So, like, I'm assuming it just goes down to 8.5, 9 here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be tightened up a little bit to see a lot more of the familiar characters you're going to see. This series, not really this series. I think Brunson could win this series, but the playoffs outside of that, moving forward, really rely on Cat. If Cat can go up to play the way he does at his high level every day and win like a Finals MVP, the Knicks could win the title. But that's very distant, as we know how Cat is.
Yeah. Absolutely here. And I mean, I do like the draw for them. I do think like having to deal with the Pistons later, considering the Pistons were a bad matchup for them this year, is probably better than where they were. But even so, like this is not something you wanted, Sean, as a Knicks guy, because if you're a Knicks fan going this year, say, oh, this is the gap year in the East. Indiana doesn't have Halliburton. The Celtics aren't going to have Tatum, and then when the Tatum shows back up at some point,
Well,
that's
I
the
think
year.
yeah.
It is.
I think it's even more so the Celtics because we kind of expected the Pistons to get better, but I mean,
I
the
don't think we had the,
Celtics are back.
I don't think we had the Pistons, the 60 win Pistons though.
That's a good point. I think the Pistons, there's just like a little bit of a cloud hanging over them just due to the Cade injury, and I'm just curious how that's going to affect his stamina. I know that he's played a few games, but and the Celtics, it's just like extremely scary. I just don't think the rest of the average fan realizes how good these rotation players that replace everyone from those championship runs are. And how close they can be to those top end guys, not to mention how much better Brown has got, and Tatum looking like he didn't even tear his Achilles less than a year ago.
Yeah, Sean, if you had to peg right now, like how far do you think the Knicks go here?
through the playoffs, it's hard to say, Mike. It really is. I mean, I could see. What are you giving me that face for, buddy?
I'm curious.
I don't think they're going to the. I do not think they're going to the NBA Finals. I think they'll lose in the conference finals again. There's too much volatility, and I do think that if you do match up with Detroit, and I think it would be the second round, Cade would already be fully integrated back, stamina back, all that good stuff. And they just, I mean, are not a good matchup for the Knicks. And the Celtics are so ready for that rematch after a year where it couldn't have gone worse for them. I don't love the volatility with Cat. He could do what he did in like the fourth quarter of that Indiana game in the conference final last year, but where were you for the first 3.5 quarters? Bridges has not really made an impact offensively. Um, on paper, they should be there, but this is not. I think a Knick fan would be kidding themselves, Mike, if they thought if this is where they thought that they would be entering the playoffs when the season started. You didn't think you'd have to worry about the Celtics. You didn't think you'd have to worry. Maybe the Pistons would be the hardest team, but are they really there? Now you get this Atlanta team as your first round draw. Yeah, I don't think they go to the NBA Finals. I think the conference final is their limit.
Yeah, and also I'll clarify here. They are on the Boston side of the bracket. They play Boston in the second round. They win. Detroit.
They get Boston. Okay,
Yep.
so in either event, Boston they're gonna have that circled. They're ready to go. They get Philly in the first round. I love that matchup for them. So you have Tatum fully ready to go. He returned to the scene of the crime already. I think it was very intentional that he played in that game at the Garden last week and Brown didn't because it was a win-win for the Celtics. It was, hey, if we lose and we didn't play with Brown, well, we didn't have Jaylen Brown. And if they won, it's like, well, hell, we won without Jaylen Brown. And Tatum already conquered those demons. So I think I would take the Celtics for the reason that Tom said too. We'll talk more about them, I know. But this Knicks team is too volatile and they're too inconsistent. At their best, Mike and Tom, of course they could go to the NBA Finals, but I also don't know if I trust Mike Brown to extract all of that talent out of them for 4 rounds either, 3 rounds.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. We're recording on Thursday night, which is the off day in the play-in, where we obviously are waiting for the eight seeds to come out of the East and West. The eight seed matchups, you got Phoenix and the Warriors out west, the Magic and the Hornets, the Southeast Division matchup in the East. So, any big takeaways from the play-in so far, other than the fact that I think my big thing is Charlotte's fun, and Charlotte's gonna be a problem in about a year and a half.
100%. I love Charlotte. They're just such a fun team. And there's a little bit of dirty play there, which I like.
Yeah,
Credit to the NBA as well. I think the playing has been a lot of fun. Like, I mean, if you went to bed
when you can
in the
watch it.
third, if yes. Well, that's why I said shout out to the NBA and not shout out to the NBA and Amazon because that's some tough stuff. There's a lot of money flying around. Maybe put some into building, your streaming out a little bit, but it is what it is, I guess. But I was saying, like, if you went to bed in the third quarter of a lot of these games, you would have woken up shocked. I mean, the Warriors as well as the Magic, or I'm sorry, just the Warriors with the Clippers last night was pretty crazy for see them come back.
Yeah. Clippers for sure. Like this is such a dumpster fire year for them too, coming out of the play in here where like they have the crappy start and then they have the Chris Paul fiasco. And then James Harden forced his way out of there. They trade Zubac away. They make the playoffs. All the young guys get hurt. And then they have this big
Also, the
collapse.
Ascend thing.
Yeah. The Kawhi
Affirmation.
yeah,
Aspiration, sorry, yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, aspiration.
yeah, that controversy. Then to top it all off, they lose, fall in the lottery. The pick goes to the Thunder as the last piece of the Paul George trade. So bang up year for the Clippers.
Yeah, I think the only shining light they can take out of the season is that Darius Garland has looked amazing and that Kawhi looks healthier than he's been. I don't know. I don't even want to comment on Kawhi's health. Who the hell knows? He looked healthy last
He had
night.
one of the best. He had one of the best years of his career. He had a really bad game last night, though, and I felt like that their season ended the way it kind of deserved to. I think we talked about it, Mike, when we came on after the All-Star break. But like, I think if you're the Clippers as an organization, I just think that they are completely resigned to the fact that this pick was going to OKC. So I don't think that they really care. I don't think they made any moves to try to combat that. When you start 6-21, it's like, let's just not have a top three odds at 40%, which they didn't. So they've been resigned to the fact that this pick is gone. So I don't even think it's as much about that. I do think Kawhi is going to be on another team next year. It's time to move on. You were able to get Garland, which was massive. Like, I can't express how big that was. You get this pick that might if it's been between 4 and 8, you get this pick from the Pacers, which is still possible. Maybe that changes some things, but this season ended the way it was supposed to, which is just an utter disappointment.
Yeah, it makes some sense. They do I do give them credit. Like what they did in the Zubac trade was pretty good in terms of they get back Mathurin, who's a nice piece here, and like those two picks, either getting a lottery pick in this year's loaded class, or they're getting unprotected picks in 29 and 31 from the Pacers. So I think that's a pretty good haul for a guy who I don't think they were going to be able to keep long term with their cap structure.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're never going to be able to live that decision down. But also, though, if you rehash it, it's like it wasn't like when the Nets bought like old people. Like they were getting Paul George in order to get Kawhi Leonard, if that was like the thing holding up the
I
deal.
think if you asked a lot of people in the NBA, they would make that trade again. Or they would make that move again because there's just so many ways
I
when
think
they
in I think if you play that out 100 times, like including the aspiration stuff and whatnot, like I think this might be the worst outcome of all of them if
Oh yeah.
OKC gets the pick.
For sure. And forget about just the pick. You got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Like that was the
True.
worst thing that happened. So, listen, you're in a tough spot, especially when you're an organization like the Clippers. I'm a fan of a team that's very comparable to them. You have to make those kind of gambles, and in a lot of situations, Mike, you end up at least winning once. That playoffs in the bubble, like they just haven't ever recovered from that, and all the crap that's gone on, and But I do think they're ready to turn the page. And last night it's like, all right, let's just move on. We're done with this year.
Yeah, for sure. Go a couple other go some of these other series here we know about here because I think we're both would agree whoever comes out of these 8 seeds like in the play-ins is not going to push the one that much.
No.
No, I think I'm hoping the Hornets win, but and maybe they could sneak a game in there against Detroit, just because of how fast they play and whatnot. But Detroit is quite physical. But then, yeah, I think the Warriors or the Suns are getting swept on the other side.
Yeah, OKC sweeping whoever they play, and I think you might get at best a gentleman's sweep if the Hornets get out. If they get the Magic there, they're getting swept also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Is Paolo on the block on the block heavy now?
I still think I circle on the spot that if we're looking for Tom Thibodeau to get back in the league, that's the team.
Hmm,
Yeah,
that's
it could
interesting.
be. That's a good call. I mean, although I would contend that they're not at the ground level trying to get into playoff contention. You're trying to get them from a playoff team to that next level, which isn't always Thibodeau's thing. He usually takes over teams in the dumpster. So, um, I think that team is. I mean, obviously Jamal Mosley's gonna be fired. Like there's just been so much smoke coming out of there. I was kind of hoping he'd be fired today after that loss last night, where I would be wondering if he's the first coach ever to be fired in between playing games. But
Not fair. It's a new thing. Not fair to
yeah,
him.
he'll be gone. And then yeah, it really is Ken Franz and Paolo coexist because that offense, which we thought was going to be a lot better with Desmond Bain, who honestly has had a phenomenal year, but it has been awful to watch and not much better than the version that we watched the last few years. Just this time, Paolo is not able to take over games like he did the last few years.
Yeah, go bounce around a little bit. Here's on the other series. Boston Philly mentioned earlier. Obviously, the big thing here is does Philly get MB back at some point after the appendectomy? So it sounds like if he's at the fastest, the earliest he'd be in the series is game four, but I think at that point it's too late. I think like Boston's probably gonna beat them in five, I would guess.
Yeah, I think Philly will nab one game. Great job by Philly with that hoax with PG, like just saying like take the PED because like you need to get suspended anyways to get healthy for the playoffs. So that was genius by them. But um I mean, the backcourt awesome to watch. I'm looking forward to this series because I like a lot of players in this series, but I don't think it'll be very long, unfortunately.
No, I like Boston pretty easily. Boston's not a good matchup
You
for
think they get a
Philly.
game though, Philly?
Yeah, yeah, they'll get one. I mean, the way that Maxey and Edgecombe are playing, shit, they might grab two. Boston's just going to have one or two of those nights where they just don't shoot the ball well, but they're by far the better team. Philly's not going to beat Boston 4 out of 7 times.
No. And the other one in the East is Cleveland and Toronto here. New look Cavs that harden in the playoffs here against a
Tom's
Raptors.
boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom loves James
Eh.
Harden.
All right, let's chill with that. Don't put that on me. That's going to be the new thing now. I just, for some reason, I fell for him with this Cavs team, and to be honest, I think this Cavs team could beat the Pistons and make a finals run depending on how Cade's health looks.
Yeah.
I think if his stamina is not there, Mitchell could really do some damage in that round two series.
Yeah. And the Raptors, I think this is a gentleman's sweep way to happen as well in this series. Maybe they get one in the north up in Toronto, but like I don't think they have the firepower to contend with what Cleveland can do if Cleveland's shooting well.
Cleveland
I,
needs to win this series easily. Like
they got to
just
sweep him,
I
sweep
I
him.
think there's a ton of pessimism and anxiety around that fan base. Like you look at this team, you can easily talk yourself. We're talking ourselves into the Knicks winning the East. There's a ton of people in Cleveland who are talking the Cavs going into the winning the East because they have so much talent and they have an alpha in Mitchell, and they have Mobley and Allen, and you have a James Harden, and I don't know, like even some of the other guys, like an Ellis that they got, and a Schroeder who we know is a mother effer in the playoffs. Like they have the talent and the depth that should be able to go make some noise in the playoffs. They gotta just bury the Raptors because if that series somehow becomes close, there's going to be a ton of anxiety, especially if there's like a deciding game 5 of a 2-2 series that the winner is going to get a leg up in the series and James Harden's playing in it. That's not a position you want to be in.
No.
I think Mitchell wins that series on his own.
All right, let's go to the other West series here. Can Portland pull a game off the Spurs?
Yes, Denny Avdia is
Absolutely.
going to have another 40 piece. They're going to win one game in Portland. Absolutely. Whether it be 3 or 4. Klingon's been really good. This team's been damn good down the stretch, guys. Like, I think they can get one. Everybody's just saying, write a sweep for San Antonio. Let's just remember San Antonio hasn't been in this position either. They're capable of having a letdown game, and Portland has the personnel to win once. And I'm rooting for it. Plus, you got like a Drew Holiday in there. Yeah, like I'd like to see Portland be a little frisky. They're gonna win one game. I hope so.
I agree on that front because I could definitely see, as you mentioned, the lack of experience for the Spurs. And Tom, I could just imagine, they win the first two in San Antonio pretty easily. They go to Portland for game 3, haven't dealt with the road playoff environment yet, and then they like lose the game by like 25, and then come back next two and just like smoke them, sweep it.
Yeah, I could see Portland just blitzing them in the first quarter at home in that third game and getting off to a big lead and just San Antonio calling off the dogs early. The only thing I wonder about San Antonio looking forward, I do think Portland's going to get one game as well, is, Wemby with his minutes, like, is he limited or were they playing coy all season? And is that the most genius thing ever?
They're not gonna kill him. I don't think
I
that
don't
they
think
like
so
to
either,
play him
but
42 minutes a night.
even if they put his minutes, I mean, he's only averaging what, under 30 minutes a game or
Yeah, well, especially since he's come back in the middle of the year.
yeah, I mean, imagine if they just bump him up to 33.
Yeah, I mean they know what they're doing with him, but on the perimeter, you've got Castle and I mean, look at what Harper's done in the second half of
It's
this
my
year.
guy, man. I
Like
love him.
so good. They even guys like Barnes, who's been there.
Cornette.
Cornette is a very, very experienced backup big who could start on a lot of teams. Kelton Johnson might win six man of the year. So they're so loaded. But one thing I know Portland's not going to win, so we're not going to give them a ton of oxygen. But like this Denny Avdia thing, man. I mean, he dropped 41 in the play-in game. He's had an unbelievable year. They're frisky. They fight. There's toughness. They have these centers clinging, anchoring down low, who's gotten better and better throughout this year as well. They're a fun team. I think that it's imperative for them to have a good showing while no one expects them to win, and then really use this as a learning experience with their young guys. This is the first time they're in the playoffs in 6 years too, so you know that city and that fan base is really excited to get at least 2 home games.
Yeah, and Dame back next year. This group will be fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So the other series out west, Rockets Lakers obviously took a big hit when when Austin Reeves and Luca both go down with the injuries here. Like this is incredible that LeBron basically has no pressure in this series, and nobody expects them to win in this series where like your second best guys are like DeAndre Ayton and people like that, and Bronny James in the rotation for the Lakers, and like if the Rockets lose this series, like that's a biggie on Durant. Like you can't lose to this team.
They won't.
Oh, I mean, they might lose a game because the Rockets are stupid, but they're not that dumb. This will be a gentleman's sweep, right, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not very impressed with this Rockets team, although they played very well to end the season. They still do some goofy stuff. There's still, too much ISO Durant for my liking, but this is a 41-year-old LeBron James with nobody else. Like if even if just one of Luca or Reeves was healthy, I would still probably take the Lakers, even if it wasn't Luca and it was Reeves. But yeah, I mean, what do you really expect? If anybody's still having the LeBron narrative at 41 years old with this team, which isn't even really his anymore, it's Luca's, like, come on.
Yeah. And obviously, the fun series of this round, the Denver Minnesota series here, the only one I think will go 7 games regardless here. So, thoughts on this series? Because I feel like this is such a fun series because whoever gets this is going into I believe they're in the San Antonio half of the bracket, so they get the Spurs second round. So, this would be a fun matchup here to see. I think if you're looking for a sleeper in the playoffs, I think whoever comes out of this series is it.
For sure, I completely agree. I think I'm going to go with Denver in, I think, 7. I think it's going to be a hard-fought series, but McDaniel's injury and I believe Ant's a little nicked up too.
Yeah,
He
he
is.
is.
So maybe I downgrade it to 6, Denver in 6.
These two teams have squared off in the playoffs, and it's been awesome each time over the last couple years. Minnesota, back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances that nobody really ever talks about. But yeah, the injury concerns do scare me a little bit. It kind of broke the way I feel like it should have because Denver was really at the end trying to avoid Minnesota and doing some stuff to sabotage their seeding, but they ended up getting that seed, so they're getting the Wolves. And as an NBA and just as a basketball fan, you hope that Minnesota is good because this is a fascinating series to me. Both of these teams play styles that mirror one another. You have the superstars. Um, Denver, by the way, down the stretch has been playing like the version that they thought they were going to be. They had so many injuries, but Aaron Gordon's back now. He is the X factor of this series. Cam Johnson's starting to play a little bit more like the version of a guy that they thought they were getting. I think he's a little more reliable than MPJ was, especially when he was hurt last year. So I think if Denver's able to win this series, look for them to be a stealth contender in the West because obviously they have the Joker and nobody else does, but this is the version of the team that they were hoping that they would have when the playoffs started.
Absolutely here. So wrap up the playoff preview here. Like if we make a finals pick today, like where are you going? I'll start with you, Tom. Like who's the matchup?
Um, Obviously OKC on the Western Conference side is coming out for me. I just think Spurs have never been there before, and I think OKC is going to be ready. J-Dub says he's fresh and ready to go. Or which one is J-Dub, J Will?
J Dub is the one who's the second best player on the team. The forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. He says he's ready to go. SGA, I think he should be the MVP for the second year in a row. And on the other side, I'm going with Cleveland. I think that the Knicks are going to beat the shit out of the Celtics, and the Celtics are going to beat the shit out of the Knicks. And I think the Knicks are going to limp into the conference finals. Cleveland's going to come in healthy. I think Mitchell's going to go off. I think the big men are going to step up. And I just think that's going to be my finals matchup. Harden's going to get there, boys.
Give me OKC Boston.
Yeah. I'll be the homer. I'll go OKC Knicks, and the Knicks lose in 5.
There you go.
I
How would that
appreciate
make
it.
how would that make you feel? Like obviously it should be in the macro good, right? Because the
Yeah.
whole point of this season was to make sure you get further than you did last year. So you go to the NBA Finals. But if you get dog walked, I mean, unlike years previous where you can be like, okay, we got our experience, it's like, Well, the Thunder aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Spurs are not going anywhere anytime soon. How are you beating a team in the West out of those two would be my question. So how would it make you guys feel if they went to the finals and just got rocked?
Not great.
Nah, I mean, especially when it feels like you've exhausted all your resources, you know.
Like I felt that with the Yankees 2 years ago going to the World Series. I'm like, we made the World Series for the first time since '09. This is amazing. And then it's like, well, that really was a very unfortunate and not fun series. So
No.
so yeah, it's like I think everybody
Yes.
says like, well, you just have to get there. That's the important part. But then you have to remember that you're actually playing. And if the Thunder just humiliate you, I don't think that's going to be one of those series that Nick fans talk about and revel in, you know.
Yeah, it's certainly a fair point here. And as the playoffs start here, I'll also point out here that
You just peed on us.
yeah, there is.
Well,
Yeah. To point out here that we have now these new NBA TV contracts here, and we talked a little bit earlier about the play-in fiasco with Prime, but now thanks to this new deal where they get billions and billions of dollars from Prime and NBC and ABC to keep the NBA rights here. No more first round games on your local networks here. So no Breen and Quine on MSG for the Knicks. If the Nets had gotten there, you wouldn't get Iron Eagle and Sarah Kustok. Like, no more local like angles here on the first round. And to me, that sucks because I mean, like, it's something I complained about with baseball for years that like you go through 162 with your people, and all of a sudden those randos are just parachuting in to call your games, have no idea what's going on with your team for the course of the year. Like this is terrible, especially if we have Prime paying money and they can't get the stream to work correctly. So that's a problem.
Yeah, it sucks for it always sucks for the fans, and it obviously has to do with money and greed, and it's just a shame. I believe it doesn't the MLB do this a couple
They
of years
they
back?
they've been doing it forever, and like I've hated MLB for years.
Oh yeah, it sucks, and you hate it when you feel like every fan feels like Joe Buck hates their team.
And
Back when he called baseball.
Joe Buck called the Met game last night at ESPN. And Joe Buck is far better than anybody ESPN's had in there in years.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, just you hate when you don't have anybody that really knows the team. And I'm gonna miss obviously Clyde and Breen. Got to be one of the best combos in the NBA. So it's a shame across the board. Am I surprised? No. It's only gonna get worse, boys.
it sucks, but I don't. I think it's just because we kind of knew this when the season started with the new deal, so it was already kind of written in. And I think fans like like two things can be true. It sucks, no doubt about it, but baseball, like you said, has been doing this forever. Like this is the new way. Like when these new deals were struck, it was going to cut off more home announcers, especially when you're a fan of a team like the Knicks. Like Breen is the guy, right, for ABC and ESPN. So he even misses more games than you would like him to. Ian Eagle misses a ton of games because he's on Amazon now. So like it sucks, but you'll be okay. What my biggest issue is the fact that it's on Amazon exclusively is you can't jump. Like I'd like to split between two or three games, and now it's like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to watch the Knicks game because I'm on Amazon. I can't flip to anything else. So that's kind of frustrating too.
It is very
Because at
frustrating.
least you had ESPN, ABC, and Turner, right? So it was
Are they
like
gonna come up with like, a Masters.com 4 box kind of thing?
they should.
Yeah, well, like, I think they stagger the times if they're not going to do it yet, at least on the weekend.
Yeah,
All right.
very true.
Yes, a couple other things to talk about here. The 65 game rule for the awards has come into a lot of heat. There's all the injuries that these big guys had here, and we saw, I think, today on day of recording that Luca and Cade Cunningham got exceptions to the thing because I think they both played 64 games. They gave Cade a break for the collapsed lung. They gave Luca a break because he missed 2 games to go be home for the birth of his child and played 64. So I think that's nice. But to me, I've said this. I was not a fan of this thing when it came up here, especially when you're messing with guys' money here. It's so stupid to have the awards tied to how many games you play because they're assuming that the writers are dumb and are going to vote for a guy playing 50 games as the MVP, plus somebody who played in 72 or something like that. I don't like you're tying it to money when you have guys rushing back because they have to have contract incentives that are tied to being all NBA and whatnot. And now you're sitting here saying, oh, this guy's okay, this guy's not okay. Like you can play, you can't play, you should have played. Like this is all nonsense. This is an NBA created problem with the load management, and they're trying to take it out on the players. I do not like this thing.
I agree with you. I think it there needs to be stipulations put in just because, there's a lot of players in professional baseball that should be in the Hall of Fame and there's some dumb writers that still haven't let them in. So, but I think there needs to be some guidelines. These guidelines are dumb. And of course, there's going to be exceptions for star players. I mean, am I surprised by that? No, not at all. I mean, you're seeing it in the golf world too. Like, I think John Rahm's, when this live thing ends, the nose broke, is going to have a lot easier time getting in than Thomas Dietrich. Just like Cade's going to get it, but somebody else that's not of his ilk is not going to get that same treatment. But I just think the games thing. They've got go to the Sloan conference and do some math for me and find a better way to figure this out. It shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah, Sean, my issue with this is more like there was a point this year, when SGA was hurt, when Wemby was hurt, when Jokic was hurt. There was a point where we're saying here, boy, if these guys miss all the games, we could default to Cade Cunningham being the MVP. And that should not be how this works.
This is classic NBA. That is so fitting for a year that had a third of the teams tanking, more discourse about the All-Star game. Like, they can't get out of their own way. And this was a stupid rule from the start. And they can't even enforce their own rule. Like, you know what? For as dumb as it is, I would have loved for them to, especially have said to Lucas, like, you know what? We would have given you an exception for those two games because we do respect that you wanted to be there for the birth of your child. But you did get teed up that cost you a game with your 16th tee. So
Forgot about that. Good point.
Right there's your 64 and suck it. That's one, like, they could have stood on business. They could have said with Cade, hey, listen, we know this is a very unfortunate thing. You went diving for a ball and you had your lung collapse. Like, that fucking sucks. But the whole point of this award stipulation 65 game rule, I use quotes for rule, is the whole point of conditioning. We are supposed to reward the players that play the most games. There is a test to go through the rigors of an 82 game season. If you can play 65 out of 82, we are going to reward that. What they didn't consider was situations like this where the best players have unique circumstances or suffer an injury. And I could go down a whole rabbit hole that I'm not going to bore your audience with, Mike, about what we're seeing in strength and conditioning of modern athletes right now and why, because of how strenuous 82 games is, that these players are just not ever going to be able to do that. They should scale back the regular season, play 70 games, which they're never going to do. But all in all, this was a stupid rule from the start. It was poorly conceived. It's not enforced, just like everything else, including most notably the tanking rules that exist. If you really want to stop tanking, just fucking enforce the rules that are already in place. But they're not doing that. They're jumping through hoops to try to find new ways to legislate it out just in time for drafts that nobody's going to care about tanking for. So all in all, Mike, this is classic NBA doing classic NBA stuff and just being the poster children in professional sports of what not to do and not how to even honor your own convoluted, poorly conceived rules that you put in. This is like, I saw that story today that they were granted like exceptions, and I just laughed. I'm like, of course they were. How are they going to win that fight? You're there, you go to Slovenia for the birth of your kids, and the other guy has a collapsed lung diving for a ball. Like, there was no way the players union was going to allow those not to be, accepted. So there's my rant.
Yeah, speaking of dumb rules, like you talk about the tanking reform here. We talked about this, I think, in February, how like a third of the league was basically actively tanking at this point, and we had the entire playing field locked in by mid-March, essentially, like literally officially locked in. So now we have, Adam Silver saying, we're stopping tanking in its tracks. We're going to change this new thing. And then we have a couple of different rules here. The one that seems to gain the most steam is this 18-team proposal that you have the 10 teams as the play-in tournament and all 8 be part of the lottery here. And basically, there's like a whole idea like that the top not to have 8% lottery odds and the remaining 20% gets split between the 8 play-in teams in descending order. Like, you have another proposal about like 10 teams miss the playoffs, 8 that qualify or the play in, 4 first round losers, all in the lottery.
That's a
And
lot.
that's 2 seasons, with records across 2 seasons. There's a minimum win floor in here. Like, this is not that complicated. And I feel like they are just really trying to they're trying to reskin the atom here. Like, and it's just not gonna work because like no matter what incentive you put in here, like you just gotta find they're gonna find ways to game this here. Because now, like if you're in the play-in and you just say, you know what, like I'm getting like a 5% chance to be the 10 seed, like to be 10 seed, win 2 games and get bounced in a gentleman sweep. Or I can go 8% and have a chance to get like a generational superstar. I'm still gonna take the 8%. They're not gonna fix anything.
Much like the second apron and the cap and whatnot. That I don't even think anybody can still properly explain.
No,
Like
that's
it should honestly for a rule, it shouldn't take you. I don't know how long did you have to go over that. Like
at least like
the,
2 minutes.
yeah, like it shouldn't take that long. It
Talk
should
to
be
me like
succinct.
I'm 5 years old, and if I can understand it, that's good.
Usually those rules are the best.
Yeah.
The
Agreed.
golden rule's pretty short.
Yeah, because for me, the easiest thing is the thing that is not saying here. Everybody who misses the playoffs, whether you are the worst team in the league or like the team that lost in the play-in, same odds. Then you end this tanking bullshit forever.
I think aside from that, there's no way to do it. You got to elect a committee. Just call it the sniff test committee and be like, that smelt like tanking. And we're gonna have to dock you. I don't know, whatever it
Ping
is.
pong balls. That's the only way
Sure,
to do
yeah.
it. And I have come along. I've thought about this way too much going back to, back in January, then when we hopped on the pod back in February with you, Mike, like the amount of people that have tried to actually believe that they fixed this thing only to watch what the NBA is doing. Like, are you kidding me? And here's really what it comes down to. There's only two ways that I have concluded that you can stop tanking overall in the NBA. Get rid of the draft altogether. Get rid of the draft. I know that's extreme and they really don't ever want to do it, but that's the only real way. Or you got to go with the wheel, where for 30 years or soon to be 32, once we get our 2 new expansion teams in, which makes no sense at the time because you're already having a 30-year team trying to intentionally lose. And now you think it's a good idea to bring 2 new teams into this league. Like, give me a freaking break. But you just need to have that where every team knows where they're going to be drafting for the next 30 years and they can go appropriately. And the problem in the NBA, which is not the case in the NFL or any other sport, is one player can change and alter the entire future of your franchise. And that is a unique circumstance that only the NBA has. And unless somehow that changes by getting rid of a draft and just coming up with a whole nother way where these dudes are free agents, you can't really ever legislate it out unless you really just want to say we're taking away ping pong balls. But there's different ways to tank. We've talked about that a lot too, right, Mike? It's like it stinks. It smells like tanking. It's like, yeah, but you know what? The Nets tanked by just playing 5 rookies and a bunch of guys that are role players. Like
They
that
actually,
team was
yeah.
not. Yeah, but that team was not built to win. It's
Now
a
I was
lot more gross with what like Utah did and what Memphis did down the stretch and Washington trading for 2 all-star players that were under any other circumstance ready to come back and play. And they're like, oh no, you're hurt, right? Yeah, go away. We're going to continue to lose. We're going to continue to not play anybody that has a future with this team. You got to stop. There should be a rule like this. You can't sign a bunch of different 10-day guys and two-way guys and play them 45 minutes a night. Like, come on, man. There has to be something for that too. So I know I'm going long here, but it's just unbelievable how they can't figure this out. Legislate it out by severely penalizing the teams that are either going into a season trying. I don't care if it looks like this. I don't care if it's what the Pacers are doing, where they lost their stars, because they could convince you that they're trying. Hey, we wanted to win. We were in Game 7 of the finals. We were 1 win away from an NBA championship. But this year we're just throwing in the towel. Zubac can't play. Like there's going to be new and creative ways to tank over and over again. Just unless you get rid of the draft, Mike, it's going to continue in some way. And it doesn't seem that Adam Silver or the competition committee has any idea how to actually change this.
I mean, this is not. I mean, your team. I would say they were doing the ethical tanking. We were just playing
Of
a bunch of
course, because
bunch of
they
young
because
guys.
they because they're like, hey, you know what? And I told you in the season preview that Tom and I did. I was like, hey, you know how you lose a lot of games in the NBA? Start rookie guards and then surround them with other guys who are only codependent on other playmakers' success. Like they were the youngest team in the league by far. So they could hatch it to the NBA. Hey, listen, we made all five of these fucking picks. We want to see what these dudes have. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, this is not as hard as I make it out to be with this all like, 18 team system, like 22 teams over 2 years. Moving forward, like there are
Tom
two.
said it perfectly. If it takes you 2 minutes to explain it, it already is dumb.
Yeah. So here's the easiest way I think you can do this. And I think this is something that like, this is resistance. You got too many MIT grads in front offices who like to be complicated with things. Is like number one,
Hmm.
go back to the 85 rules. Everybody has the same odds that don't make the playoffs to get the number one pick. Like there is no difference between finishing the worst record in the league or finishing with the 14th worst record in the league. Like that's number one. And number two, get rid of the bullshit pick protections on all these trades because
Yep.
this is the other big
Yeah,
problem because you have
that's a death wish there for those stupid fucking
yeah
protections.
because we see this all year with the Wizards like we can't fall below eight because our first round pick goes to the Knicks. That turns into 2 seconds if it doesn't. Or the Pacers, we can't let the pick land between 5 and 9, or the Clippers can get it. I mean, like enough of this bullshit. I think every pick should be unprotected. Like that's not accounted for going forward. I
I
think
think the
that thing's like
worst thing that happened for this, honestly, Tom, I wonder if you agree, Mike, I'm sure you will. The worst thing that amplified this to the whole next degree
was the
was the
Nets.
Mavericks. No, was the Mavericks getting Cooper flag with like a 1.1% chance. Because if you're a play-in team in the NBA, just like one player can alter the entire future of your franchise, play-in teams are not winning the NBA championship. Eight seeds are not going to win the NBA championship. So it's like, what the hell do we? So what? Maybe we can win one or two spots. We win one game. We're bounced. Like, I'd much rather fall out of this thing and get a 2% better chance to win the lottery. If the Mavs could do it, we could do it. Like that's. I think that was the worst thing that happened out of the Cooper flag selection was because under other circumstances the Mavs would have had no chance.
I still blame your team for the idiotic Billy
Hey,
King trade with the Celtics, where he basically gave him the picks that turned to Jason Brown and Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. So now we're sitting here like going, "Oh my God, we have to protect all our picks to make sure that we don't like have that happen." So like that's I think it made it
hey,
50 times worse.
hey, we paid our penalty for that, huh? Leave us alone.
Yeah, you have paid your penance, but yeah, I think getting rid of protections would do a lot for a bunch of different things in the league. I think it would reduce player movement, like the disgusting level of player movement that we have now as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it would not to say that give teams more power, but I think it would reduce the amount of players asking for a trade in like their second year of a 5 year contract or whatever.
Yeah, and you would also have less of this, like, okay, like I'm going to trade 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, or I'm going to trade
Hmm.
or for Desmond Bain. Like, if you're trading unprotected picks, I don't think you're making these trades as often as you think you are.
No, no way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And the last thing here, we'll do a quick around the horn on the awards here. MVPs. Everybody not picking Shea SGA. I know
Nope.
Wemby's campaigning hard for it, but I don't think he's gonna get.
No, it's SGA.
Yeah, okay. I think it's gonna do the Oscar. They're gonna split the bait here. Wemby's the defensive player of the year. I feel like that's a lock.
Yeah.
And he will be for every year he's in the league and
Yeah,
he's
they got to
healthy.
change the name. Just make it the Wemby Award. Even now, he hasn't even won one yet. Give it to him now.
Every year in the league, he plays 65 games.
There you go. Well, no, maybe he plays 62 and went back to France for the birth of his kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, coach of the year I think is interesting. I feel like for a while it was going to be Bickerstaff or Mitch Johnson, but I think the way Missoula managed the Celtics without Tatum for a while, and now Tatum's here, I think like he's probably going to get the award.
He doesn't care.
I want Missoula to get it so he has to accept it after talking about how much he hates it.
Yeah, I know he hates it here. Like, and ironic thing here, like a lot of the guys who get that award are usually fired in 2 years. So I think that's something that maybe is Nick's saying agree with this.
That's interesting. And
Very good
also, what he
stat.
said was very, very wrong too. Like the bet, like you saying Phil Jackson wasn't a great deserving of that? Like it wasn't a main reason for those Bulls and Laker teams an hour back. Like I know what he's talking about, and he's a very like I hate any material things. I hate awards. I hate recognition, but dude, coaching really matters, especially in the NBA. Even if it's not from a tactical standpoint, it's like how do you keep that team together? How do you get that much out of those guys? Nobody had them being the 2 seed this year. Nobody.
Yeah, it's just for reference here. The last like 6 years of Coach of the Year award winners here. So, 1920 was Nick Nurse with the Raptors. He lasted 2 more years before he got fired. 2021 was Thibodeau. We don't saw how that ended up for the Knicks. Monty Williams with the Suns. That ended great.
I didn't even remember that one.
Yeah. Mike Brown with the Kings. That also ended great.
Light the beam.
That's not his fault.
Yeah, it's not his fault, but he still got fired.
Very true.
Daniel OKC, he's not going anywhere. And Kenny Atkinson for the Cavaliers could be on the hot seat in a year or two.
Oh, yeah.
He could be on the hot seat very quickly if my prediction goes wrong here and they go out early. He could get fired very quickly.
Yeah, and the year before, a couple go back even further. Dwayne Casey with the Raptors before he gets fired for Nurse.
That's tough.
And
You're
then
making a good case here.
yeah, and Budenholzer before he gets fired by the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm sure you could keep going back further and further, but a lot of these coaches are demanding guys, and maybe their luster wore off.
Well, also teams are constantly like, hey, if there's championship, expectations and you don't meet them, we're gonna find somebody else.
Yeah, and last but not least, I'm not going to go into too many of the smaller awards. Rookie of the Year, you going with Cooper Flag or Con Knuckle?
Con.
Look at us, boys.
Yeah,
American white boys, like basketball. We're here again.
go,
We're
baby.
back.
We're
Look
back.
at us, 1 and 2 in Rookie of the Year.
yeah.
I think this is a lot harder of a debate than it looks at the surface because I feel like you could easily just be like, "Oh, Cooper Flag, like look what he's doing." But I mean, yeah, but he's on a tanking team versus what Khan is doing on this really fun Hornets team, and I mean, this guy is shooting the lights out.
Yeah, I would give it to Khan just because also the underrated fact here that like Khan played more games and Khan was like a big part in that turnaround. Again,
Yeah, I mean, Cooper's the better player. Cooper will be the better player in the league, but
100%.
for this award this year, it's got. I mean, Tom, I was actually expecting you to say it's a lot harder because everybody's saying Con, but you're looking at the year Cooper had. You got to go Con Knipple in the year he had, resurrecting this dormant Hornets team and being as available as he was, doing so much. I know he kind of limped down the stretch, but that's just playing all those games is something his body's not used to. But the impact he had on a team that went to the play-in, played postseason games. Yeah, I think he's the right call, even though everybody pretty much acknowledges that this is going to be Cooper's league here in probably about 5 years.
Yeah, I think for sure here. And we talk about the little dumb rules the NBA's had. I think I'll give this to them. They don't have the dumbest playoff format. That's the NHL by far.
Hey, there you go. You weren't last at something.
Yeah, there we are. We'll take it.
Yeah, because the NHL, I know you're not big hockey guys, but I will point out to you here the fact that they have this system in place where you have to start in your division for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs here. It basically guarantees, at least this season, that like 2 of the best 3 teams in the sport are not going to make the conference final in the West. That's absurd.
I guess they just live on the fact that playoff hockey's so awesome. They'll just dine on that forever.
Yeah, because just to clarify people here, like we're not hockey. Well, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota are all in one division in the West, and they're like 3 of the top 5 teams in the league, and 2 of them are playing in round 1. And the winner gets the other one in round 2.
Yeah, that would be like Oklahoma City and San Antonio playing in round 1.
Yeah,
we would be up in arms.
Yeah, because if you look at the NBA perspective, like San Antonio, Denver play round 1, the winner gets Oklahoma State in the second round.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
It is not what you want here. I thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. People want to follow you guys on the socials and check out the pod. How can they do that?
John, you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it, man. You're the CEO.
Follow us on Twitter, X, the Everything app at Sorry Sports. Follow us on TikTok at Sorry_Sports. Sorry to Interrupt podcast everywhere, I think.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you just reach up for the sky and look for pods. You'll find it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so just ask Siri next time you're on your iPhone. Just find that podcast for you. She'll do it.
Exactly.
That's right. And Mike, thanks for joining us a month ago for all the college basketball stuff for March Madness. So we appreciated you making an appearance on ours, and we're always happy to be on yours.
Yeah, hopefully your listeners like followed my picks this year.
I hope they did. I hope they did. You did. You had a damn good year, good sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. First time ever. I nailed the entire Final Four championship game and the winner.
Well done.
There
Yeah.
you go, man. Hard work
I
pays off.
really wish you picked UConn in that national championship game.